A year after the assault on the U.S. Capitol, a Bay Area congressman still hopes to hold former President Trump accountable. Joining us now from the Capitol in Washington, D.C. is East Bay Representative Eric Swalwell. Thanks so much for joining us.
My pleasure, and nice to see you all.
You sued Trump and accused him of inciting a riot. Trump has said he's not responsible. Why do you think there's enough evidence to charge him with the crime? And if he isn't charged, what would this mean for future transitions of power?
My lawsuit is about accountability, and it's a civil lawsuit. He may face criminal liability that could come. Yesterday, the Attorney General implied that they're still looking for those at the very top of organizing on January 6th. But as an impeachment manager, it was pretty clear to me in the very limited evidence we had a year ago that Donald Trump incited the mob with the big lie, aimed the mob at the Capitol with his rhetoric and what he said on January 6th, and then did nothing once the mob descended on the building, where Donald Trump was the only one in the world who had the ability to send in reinforcements to allow us to certify the election and to save lives. And so we're moving forward. On January 10, we've got the biggest hearing in the process. It's the president's motion to dismiss, where he says he has absolute immunity. Our theory of the case is that there are boundaries to absolute immunity. And when you send a mob to the Capitol, you're well outside those boundaries.
So, Congressman, if he isn't charged, what would this mean for the future transitions of power?
Well, this would say that a president is not absolutely immune, and that you could be held civilly accountable for your acts. Also, this would ensure that we would be able to explore through interviews and requests for evidence just what Donald Trump was doing that day. So we would illuminate for the American people and for history, and of course for our case, what happened that day. And of course, lawmakers, I hope, and the public could glean from that what we could do to make sure that a day like that never happens again, and no lives are ever threatened in the transition of power. And as you said, that those transitions are, again, always peaceful.
And we saw this happen on TV and images afterwards, but you were inside the chamber when rioters stormed the Capitol. What do you remember about that day?
I remember being in disbelief that this could happen in our country. I actually gaveled us in that day. I presided over the House. I had the chaplain offer a prayer. I appointed the tellers who would open the envelopes and count the votes. Then I turned the proceedings over to the Speaker and the Vice President. And hours after I did that, the same chaplain abruptly went up to the podium as the mob was descending on our chamber and offered a prayer for peace. And to me, it felt like she was praying for the souls in that chamber, but also for the soul of our country, which was threatened in a way that had never been threatened before. I sent a text message to my wife, uncertain as I was about to put on a gas mask and go on an evacuation route as to whether I would come home. And I never wanted to send that message. You don't know in that kind of moment whether you'll have an opportunity to do it again. But I told her that I love her and to kiss the babies for me. And that's how close we came to losing it all in this country. And by the grace of God and the will and grit of those officers who fought that day, we were able to escape safely and come back and certify the election.
And do you think something like this could happen again?
I think something like this is more likely to happen again than before January 6th, because we have seen nothing change from the rhetoric of America's political leaders. Donald Trump continues to espouse the big lie. Colleagues of mine continue to threaten that they will use what they call Second Amendment solutions to overturn the government. And leaders in the Republican Party, like Minority Leader McCarthy, do not speak out or condemn the violence that is being propagated inside our chamber and across the country. So I think this is more volatile of a moment in American history than ever before, and that gravely worries me.
And Capitol Police say they are better prepared for any future attacks, but many of the chief safety recommendations still haven't been put in place. Do you personally feel safe there?
I feel safe inside the building, but if another day like January 6th happened, I don't see anything that could stop an unruly mob where leaders of this country incite the mob and aim the mob and send the mob to the Capitol. I don't see how you could avoid a bloody day. And so it really takes leadership from elected officials. We're talking about Americans too. These aren't outside terrorists. These are terrorists from within, and no one is talking them down or telling them violent rhetoric is not okay. And so the temperature is very hot right now in the country. And the best thing to do is, of course, to try and fortify the Capitol, but words matter and leadership matters. And we're seeing a vacuum of leadership from Republican leaders right now.
Now, this happened 1 year ago, but we've been saying all morning the investigation into this and the ramifications are far from over. What is next?
The January 6th Commission will start to animate through hearings just what they've learned in the last 6 or so months. So there will be public hearings to show the world what happened that day and in the weeks leading up to it. And of course, to make recommendations so that we can protect against big lies that would come forward in the future that would try and fire up people or motivate them to use violence, security conditions that could be put in place, and of course, authorities that could be given to make sure that it's not only the president who could call in the National Guard, but others who could make steps on a day like that to protect the Capitol. And of course, hoping that voters ourselves, that we don't hold or that we would hold accountable any leader, Republican or Democratic, that would condone violence.
All right, East Bay Congressman Eric Swalwell, thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you.